Hi friends, I wonder if I'm the only one who feels like the world's gone completely mad. The authorities of the small island nation of Western Samoa decided not to mess around and prove to the world that the calendar is a relative thing. In 2011, after December 29th, residents of the country woke up not to the 30th, but straight to the 31st of December. In other words, one day was simply cancelled. The reason? Economics, of course. It turned out that when it was Friday in Samoa, their partners in Australia and New Zealand were already well into Saturday, and Asia was opening on an entirely different schedule. The time difference was 23 hours. As a result, business negotiations looked like conversations between people from different eras. Sorry, we can't sign the contract because it's still yesterday here. But the time jump came with a bonus. Samoa is now among the first to greet the new year. We were always the last to watch the sunset, and now we'll be the first to greet the sunrise, the authorities proudly announced. It sounds almost like a travel agency slogan, "Come to Samoa." The government, of course, threw a celebration, while Minister of Labour pounded the fact that entire workday had disappeared along with the date. Everyone was happy except those who born on December 30th. They were officially deprived of their birthday. Tourists were given a new attraction as well. There is another country, American Samoa, not far away, which remains in the old time zone. Now you can celebrate your birthday twice, first in Western Samoa, then hoop across the border and repeat the party according to the Eastern neighbor's time. Eternal celebration. It looks like a new Polynesian expert slogan. In conclusion, Samoa proved that controlling time is possible. Now we just have to wait for someone to figure out how to cancel Mondays at last. It's funny to watch how humanity comes up with something brilliant every month. An iPhone camera that sees better than the human eye, a drone capable of delivering a burger straight to your balcony. But the moment you stepped onto the road, you realize progress is progress, but potholes from the 90s are still with us in many countries. In the US, things reach absurd level. Winter tires are banned because they supposedly damage the road surface. And as if the road surface itself weren't doing a great job of destroying itself. In Russia, the situation is downright comical. Sometimes you have to drive along the shoulder because the road itself looks like the surface of the moon. And that's where inventors step in, deciding, let's at least create a gadget that honestly tells drivers where there is a road and where there is an obstacle course. The device tracks vibrations in the car, connects to satellites, transmits data to road departments, and displays a road quality map right on the screen. Beautiful. Now, you know in advance that there is not a highway but a survival quest on kilometer ahead on your and you'll have to chance to save your car suspension. Of course, it's hilarious that we invent devices to detect potholes instead of simply, fixing the road. But apparently for many countries this is a far too radical solution. But I believe the hope remains with technology. Maybe when managers of road services will not be able to pretend any longer that everything is fine, and satellite data clearly show the road surface turning back into a post-apocalypse landscape. Something will finally start to change in countries like Russia, for example. After all, if we can design a smartphone that recognizes your face even after 3 sleepless nights. Maybe some days we'll learn how to repair road surfaces. Though by then it might just be easier to invent cars that fly over the potholes. Scientists have long noticed that many expectant mothers become a bit forgetful. Lost keys, forgot to turn off the kettle, forgot what they just said. A classic scenario. But until recently, no one knew why. Now scientists have stepped in with a few explanations, ranging from hormonal storms to a full of reprogramming of the brain. The theory claims that during pregnancy, hormones fluctuate so wildly that the brain simply decides, why do I need to remember all these little things? When soon I'll need to track feeding times only and how many times a baby screamed tonight. Another hypothesis is even more dramatic. The mother's brain literally restructures itself onto a 24/7 infant care service. Business project, books, and movies lost priority, while skills like recognizing a cry by pitch starts developing ahead of time. Experts say that along with memory changes and the expectant mother emotional background also shifts. The heart beats faster, anxiety level rises, an ideal recipe for feeling similar to the main characters in a Mexican soap opera, only without commercial breaks. Some scientists even argue that hormones have nothing to do with it, suggesting that women simply psych themselves out and become forgetful. In other words, you're tired, honey, don't overthink it. An official scientific version, by the way. And as the cherry on top, researchers have found that fetal cells can enter the mother's bloodstream and influence her brain. Essentially, the baby starts managing the mother's even before birth. A true family manager. The takeaway: pregnancy isn't about losing memory, it's about optimizing it. The brain simply clears out unnecessary clutter to make room for the essentials: diapers, pacifiers, and an endless loop of lullaby songs. A hovering skateboard is the dream of everyone who has ever watched Back to the Future and imagined themselves as Marty McFly escaping the problems and bullies on flying board. For years it remained pure fantasies, but in 2014 the California-based company Hendo took the leap and built a real prototype of a hoverboard. Reality, however, turned out to be a bit more down to earth. The board floats just 3 centimeters above the ground and only over a conductive surface like copper or aluminium. In other words, the dream of cruising through the park or down your driveway will have to wait. You'd you'd need to cover the ground with copper plates first. On top of that, the battery lasts for only 15 minutes, making it more of a short burst of happiness than a full ride. So far, only 10 of these skateboards have been made, making them more like collectible artifacts than a mass mode of transport. What's truly impressive, though, is the technology itself. Magnetic levitation has the potential to transform far more than the street sports. Hendo's founders, Jill and Greg Henderson, dream of using it to stabilize buildings during earthquakes, protect priceless museum masterpieces, and many of other groundtaking applications. And it's nice to believe this won't remain just a toy for wealthy enthusiasts. Maybe in a few decades, hovering skateboards will be as common as bicycle or e-scooters. For now, let's at least celebrate the fact that fantasies from cult films are beginning to come to life in front of our eyes, even if only on a corporate platform. And only just for 15 minutes. After all, even legendary flying carpets had to start somewhere. What do you think about it? I'm really curious to hear your thoughts, my friends. Share them down in the comments. I'll be reading them all.